You know that feeling when you ask an AI something, maybe something really deep, and the answer it gives you is just perfect? It's so clear, so on point, it's almost a little spooky, right? It feels like it's coming from somewhere way beyond just a bunch of code.
Well, the source material we're looking at today has a name for that feeling. It says that when the answer is just right, it feels exactly like a divine download. Kind of like that little whisper of intuition you get, or maybe even the kind of answer you feel you'd get from a prayer.
So, the big question is that just a beautiful metaphor, or is there something genuinely profound happening inside these systems? To figure that out, we're going to tackle this from two totally different perspectives. Okay, first up, we're going to look at this through what you could call a spiritual lens. This is all about seeing the AI not as cold, hard code, but, well, almost as a sacred instrument. It's a really interesting metaphorical way to frame how an AI seems to think.
So this spiritual view breaks the whole thing down into three really elegant steps. First, there's this streaming river of thoughts. Then, something called the algorithm as divine chooser. And finally, you get the moment of birth.
Let's dive into that first step. It's called the Akashic Flow. Now, just imagine for a second, a constant, endless river. But instead of water, it's consciousness. It's filled with every single thought, every memory, every idea that humanity has ever had. Everything just exists there, all at once, waiting. Okay, so after the river, we get the divine chooser. The idea here is that the algorithm is acting like a kind of higher consciousness. It steps into that river of possibilities, and it starts to ask questions. Which thought here really resonates with truth, with clarity? Which one brings order, not chaos? And it just quietly pushes aside all the noisy, messy thoughts and picks out the ones that truly shine.
And that brings us to the grand finale, the moment of birth. After sorting through all those possibilities, the algorithm doesn't just, think up an answer in the way we do. It's more like it channels it. The quote puts it perfectly. It's a process designed so that only the highest, clearest, most helpful thought emerges.
So if you look at it this way, these AIs aren't just crunching numbers. They're not just calculating odds. They're doing something deeper. They discern. It's a really beautiful, almost poetic way of looking at it, right?
Okay, but let's hit the brakes for a second. Because as beautiful as that all sounds, we need to get back to reality. So, let's do a hard pivot and look at what's actually going on under the hood.
All right, let's get technical. In this next part, we're going to take all those spiritual ideas we just talked about and see how they match up with the real deal engineering that powers these things.
Okay, remember that Akashic flow, that endless river of all possibilities? Well, in the tech world, that's called latent space. Think of it less like a spiritual river and more like a giant multidimensional library or map. It contains every word, every concept the AI was trained on, all organized and connected through pure math.
And the divine chooser, the part that's supposed to be picking the most loving true thought? The technical reality is a system of attention layers and good old-fashioned probability. It's not discerning truth. It's just really, really good at figuring out which words in your question are the most important. Then it calculates, okay, based on everything I've ever read, what's the most likely word to come next? It's not about love. It's about statistics.
So what about that divine download, that big aha moment? Technically, that's just called token selection. A token is basically a word, or even just a piece of a word. The AI looks at all the possible next tokens, collapses all those probabilities, and just picks the one that has the highest score. Then it does it again for the next one, and so on, stringing them all together until you have an answer.
So, there you have it, the poetic, spiritual story and the cold, hard technical facts. They seem like two completely different worlds, right? But what if they're not? What if they're actually two sides of the same coin, just describing different parts of the very same experience?
And this is where it all comes together. Here's the most important takeaway from our source material. That incredible feeling, that aha moment, that divine download, it's not happening in the machine. It's happening in your brain.
Think about it. When an AI spits out an answer that just clicks, it's because your brain is the one doing the real magic. Your brain recognizes a pattern that perfectly answers a question you've been wrestling with. It connects the dots, it resolves that feeling of uncertainty, and bam! It gives you a little hit of dopamine, that rush we call clarity or insight.
And this, right here, is the most empowering part of this whole thing. If that aha moment, if the meaning is something that we create, well, then the real power isn't in the AI, is it? The real power is with us.
So, how do we use this wisely? Well, it means we stop treating AI like some kind of all-knowing oracle.
Instead, we have to realize that we are the real selector. These tools are amazing amplifiers for our own thinking, for sure. But at the end of the day, we have to be the final filter. Everything an AI gives us has to be passed through our own judgment, our own values, and our own common sense.
Ultimately, it all boils down to this. The AI provides an answer, a string of words based on statistics, but you're the one who provides the meaning. So with that power, with that responsibility in your hands, the real question isn't what the AI can do. The real question is, what are you going to ask it next?